Here.
Everyone is in attendance. I want to ask everyone if they please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Gracious Father, we thank you so much for the opportunity to come and serve in this great county with these wonderful men and women in this room. Thank you for all the many blessings you've bestowed upon us, and we ask you now that you give us your wisdom as we work through the business, that we make those decisions that are good for the community and are glorifying to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. In his name we pray, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on our agenda is the approval of this agenda. Are there any corrections or additions to the agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Deloach to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, we have our agenda. Next item is the minutes. Consideration to approve the February 15, 2022 regular commission meeting minutes. Do you have a motion to approve as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Floyd to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. And the minutes are unanimously approved. Welcome to our public. Thank you for being here tonight and participating in our government. The items on the agenda are open to public comment, but we'd ask that as you make comments that you come to the mic, state your names for the record. And if you keep your comments to 2 or 3 minutes, that would help so that everyone has a chance that would like to speak to an agenda item. Excuse me. The correspondence of the documents for this meeting are located in the clerk's office and on the Board of Commissioners website. And I hope you've had a chance to review those and are prepared to speak at the appropriate time. With that, we have a consent agenda. There's 5 items on the consent agenda. I'll read through these items and then entertain a motion to approve all 5 items at once. Item number 1, consideration to approve the renewal of a memorandum of understanding between the Effingham County Board of Education and Effingham County Board of Commissioners for ambulance services at various Board of Education events. Item number 2, consideration to approve to allow the mutual aid agreement with the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, this is the ASPCA, to continue. Item number 3, consideration to approve the lease agreement between Effingham County Board of Commissioners and the State Properties Commission for the Georgia Department of Human Services, the Division of Family and Children's Services. This is lease number 3362. Item number 4, consideration to approve to renew a service order with Stamps.com. And 5, consideration to approve ratification and submission of a grant application to the Georgia Firefighters Standards and Training Council, GFSTC. Do I have a motion to
Make
approve
a
the
motion to
consent
approve
agenda?
as read.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Deloach to approve the consent agenda as read. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. We have old business, 2 items under old business. The number 1 is consideration to approve the second reading of an ordinance to amend Article 2, definitions. Article 5, the uses permitted in districts. Section 5.6, R3, multifamily residence. Section 5.8, R6, single-family residential. Section 5.9, B1, neighborhood commercial. Section 5.10, B2, general commercial, and Section 5.11, B3, highway commercial of the Code of Ordinances. First reading was approved on 2/15/22. This is our second reading. Do you have a motion to approve the second reading?
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second Mr. Forrest to Floyd to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. And the ordinances are approved.
Just want to thank you all for the work done on this.
Yeah.
I know we're picking and choosing as we go, but I know it takes a lot to go through everything. Thank you.
Been in meetings all day, so my voice is leaving me, so I have to sip water while we do this meeting. Item number 2 of old business, consideration to approve to renew agreements with Constellation New Energy for natural gas for multiple county buildings. This was postponed from 2/15/22, so we could maybe get some competitive look-sees at this. Were we able to do that?
Yes, which I'm very glad that we did. Allison Bruton, purchasing agent. I did get proposals from Georgia Natural Gas and Gas South, both of which were lower. There is a DDDC rate, which is included as well, which I did not know what that was.
I didn't either. I was going to ask you that, so I'm glad you looked that up.
So it is, hang on, I had it on here somewhere. It's the factor determined by Atlanta Gas Light each August, and each meter has its own DDDC factor. And it's used as a multiplier to determine AGL base charges and interstate pipeline capacity charge. So learn something new every day. Basically, it's a number that is assigned to each meter, and it changes once a year.
So it's a flat fee on that meter, so it's not per unit.
Correct.
So you don't need to be alarmed if it goes from 8 to 12, it's only $4 each billing cycle.
It is that number multiplied by the fee. So Constellations is $850. On the spreadsheet, hang on, which I apologize, I know it's tiny. I should have had it at the front.
I need to pull it up too, so I can look at it with you.
So what I did on the very, very tiny spreadsheet is I took all of our bills from December and January, and broke them out to show the therms that were billed for and the DDDC rate. So the prison, for example, the rate is 16.246, so it would be that times 850 to get the DDDC total, which I have on that breakdown as well. So I took all of our bills from December and January with Constellation as we have it now, and then I showed what they would be with the new Constellation rates, as well as Georgia Natural Gas and Gas South. Georgia Natural Gas's DDDC rate is $12.99, but Gas South's is $8.50, which is the same as Constellation. So that brings their total prices down even more. So I do recommend, if the board is good, I'll move forward with getting agreements from Gas South.
Okay, so we don't need the action tonight, just if the board would like for you to move forward with a more competitive pricing
Correct.
from Gas South contract to present at the next meeting.
Mhm.
I think that's agreeable. Everybody agree?
I agree.
Yeah, come back with a contract for Gas South versus Constellation, and we'll put on the next agenda and approve it. So
Perfect.
we're not tabling this item, I assume
Take action.
the action is to deny this one, right?
Mhm.
All right. Do you have a motion to deny the agreement with Constellation?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Loper to deny the agreement with Constellation. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. And then that is denied unanimously. And no other action is needed, other than you bring a contract back for the next agenda.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Allison,
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
I'm staying up here.
We saved a little bit of money by waiting, didn't we?
Yes, yes. Well, it's not one of those things you think to really research. We've used Constellation since 2013, so, or before that, I guess, so.
Sounds good. All right, we'll move on to new business. Item number 1 is consideration to approve resolution 22-013 for surplus items.
Yes, sir. So this list contains a filing cabinet type machine from the elections office that they no longer need, and some vehicles.
Okay, any question or discussion? Motion to approve alternative 1.
Make a motion to approve all number 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second Mr. Deloach to approve alternative 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 2, under new business, consideration to approve to award a task order 22-003 to Pond Company for the Parks Master Plan.
Yes, sir. So we sent an RFP to 9 of the IDC consultants
Recording in progress.
requesting the proposal to update the existing Parks and Rec master plan. 4 proposals were received. Y'all should have the tabulations included in your packet. All of these proposals were reviewed extensively by staff, and we recommend alternative 1.
Okay, any questions or discussion? Do you have a motion for alternative 1?
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Floyd to approve alternative one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 4 under new business, consideration to approve change order number 1 with Pond Company in the amount of $6,900 to include an additional facility to the facility master plan study.
We skipped number 3.
Number
You
3.
skipped number
the bottom.
3.
Did I? I'm sorry. I was just trying to get through the meeting fast. The last one was so long.
I do appreciate it, but
Okay. Item number 3, consideration to approve, to award contract 22-25-006 to E&D Contracting Services Incorporated for road improvement construction to Sherrouse Road and Freedom Trail in the amount of $144,000.
yes, sir. So we did post an RFQ back in January for this project. We posted it to the county website and to the Georgia State DOAS site, and only one proposal was received, and that was from E&D Contracting, and staff recommends alternative 1.
Are any questions or discussions about item number 3 under new business?
Make a motion to approve.
All right, motion of Mr. Loper to approve alternative 1. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Deloach. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. And it passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Now, item number 4, consideration to approve a change order number 1 with Pond Company in the amount of $6,900 to include an additional facility to the facility master plan study.
Yes, Brad Clement Development Services. This adds one building to that facilities master plan. It's for a training facility for the sheriffs.
All in favor say aye.
It's in the amount of $6,900. Staff recommends approval.
Okay. Now, is that somebody on Zoom that we're hearing them talk?
Yeah, we're
Oh,
trying to
okay.
mute them. Yeah.
All righty.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Deloach to approve alternative 1, second by Mr. Loper, I'm sorry. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 5, consideration to approve change order number 1 to contract with EMC Engineering Services Incorporated to perform easement acquisition related to Hodgeville Sanitary Force main.
Yes, this is just for the easement acquisition in support of that contract previously let. It's in the amount of $26,950. Staff recommends approval.
Any questions or discussion from Mr. Brad? You have a motion to approve alternative 1?
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Deloach, second from Mr. Floyd to approve alternative 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 6 under new business, consideration to approve change order number 2 with Alliance Consulting Engineers Incorporated to prepare a design development report for a spray field expansion on Low Ground Road.
Yes, this was something that came out of the master wastewater plan that was previously done. This is in support of that plan. The revised task order amount is in the amount of $229,000 total bill. Staff recommends approval for this study.
Okay, this particular study is only $14,000, right?
That's correct.
That's what we're approving tonight.
Yes.
Okay, is there a motion to approve alternative 1?
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Burdette to approve alternative 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 7, approve a change order number 1 with Hussey Gay Bell and add reuse water line extension to the project. Additional work required to receive GDOT approval and to authorize easement acquisition.
Yes, this project has been in the hopper for a while now. It's been in redesign multiple times to get around some of those GDOT issues. We think we know what right looks like this time. This re-adds the reuse back to that design and includes the easement acquisition. So staff recommends approval of this change order to that original contract.
Yeah, I talked with Tim about this extensively, and I think that's probably the only thing we can do is approve this, even though it's large. Starting over would not be a good solution. Any questions or discussion from Mr. Brad?
And this includes all the easement acquisitions that we're going to need
Yes,
for this project?
yes. And I believe it's itemized out in your packet. I think they built it out at $6,000 a parcel.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you have a motion to approve alternative one?
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Floyd, second Mr. Burdette, to approve alternative one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 8 under new business, consideration to approve resolution 22-014 to amend the 2021 and 2022 fiscal year budget.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Barnes, Finance Director. Staff is requesting approval for an amendment to the fiscal year 22 budget. This amendment contains the purchase of 5 lift stations that EOM is requesting, lift station pumps. And the second item in this amendment is at the previous agenda commissioners meeting, there was an approval to the Cowan Investments agreement for the Old Augusta Road project, the water and sewer going on there, and this budget amendment covers that. Staff recommends alternative number 1, approve the resolution.
Any questions or discussion from Mr. Mark?
Make a motion to approve all number 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Deloach to approve alternative 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 9, consideration to approve acceptance of a grant award from Jima, Local Emergency Management Performance Grant, Empg program.
Staff is requesting to accept the grant award from Georgia for this grant program. This is an award that we get almost every year. This year, the plan is for EMA to use it to purchase a messaging trailer like they would park on the side of the highway for emergencies and road closures and those types of items, and then some projectors, tablets, and these et cetera items that they're going to use for that program. The total project of this will be $31,000, with the county paying half and Georgia paying the other half.
Any questions or discussions for Mr. Barnes on this? Motion for alternative 1.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second Mr. Deloach to approve alternative 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 10, consideration to approve acceptance of a grant award from ACCG Civic Affairs Foundation Georgia Community Internship Program. This is GCIP.
Okay. Staff is requesting approval to accept this grant. The award amount is $2,607. The county will be paying $5,204. This grant award is for an intern that should, it'll be advertised, and should we receive an applicant for it, they will be paid to work $15 an hour for 480 hours on a road project that Eric Larson will be supervising this, and it's going to be in a roads assessment to assess the quality of the roads throughout the county to assist them in their planning. Staff recommends alternative number 1, approve the grant award.
Any questions or discussion from Mr. Barnes? Motion for alternative 1.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second Mr. Floyd to approve alternative 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. This is going to be a good project
Yes.
to have our roads assessed and evaluated.
$15 an hour.
Yeah, 15.
Yeah, they bumped it up a little bit. ACCG was going to go 12. And,
That could
yeah.
easily be $150 an hour if you used,
Engineering.
Who will Eric be doing the choosing of this intern? I mean, or will it go through HR? How does that decided? Or will it be
I
for
would
sure
think
a
it- I think it
student
would-
from Effingham, somebody from Effingham County receiving that benefit?
Yeah, hopefully so.
they're asking how the person will be chosen.
It usually goes through HR with consultation with Eric, just to make sure it's the right fit.
Is there going to be a college student or
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a requirement.
County?
in an engineering program?
Okay.
That'd be excellent.
Well, can't go wrong with $15 an hour to get some
I was
assessment
going to
of our
say.
roads.
So we don't have to compete with Dairy Queen applicants.
That's right.
Who added $3 to it? It was 12 and somebody added $3.
I
You
think the
did that?
grant is
Yes, sir. After
$3.
talking with Eric Larson, yeah, he said they would probably need that at least to have to attract any sort of
Okay,
applicant.
$3,
Parker's is paying 17 right now, so I think we should.
Yeah, I think we're adding $3 to get to that wage that everybody's having to pay to get folks.
We're not gonna get
Him and
anybody.
Larson can pay it. They pay $1.50 a piece.
All right, item number 11, under new business, consideration to reappoint William Carter to the Department of Family and Children's Services Board.
Mr. William Carter has resided on the DFACS board since 2014. He is an appointment that represents the 2nd District, as recommended by Commissioner Burdette. In conversations with Commissioner Burdette, he has elected to reappoint Mr. Carter for another 4-year term. This term will expire in 2025. Staff recommends approval.
All right, that's alternative one. Do you have a motion to approve alternative one?
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Loper to approve alternative one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. And it passes unanimously. The last item under new business is consideration to appoint Ryan Thompson to the planning board as representative for the 1st District. We have to really discuss this one.
Yeah, let's
Did
talk
we do a
about that.
background check?
So Mr. Ryan Thompson will be filling the 1st District seat, replacing Mr. Michael Larson. If appointed, this term will expire on January of 2025. Staff recommends approval.
Appreciate you being willing to serve on that. You'll be a great addition to that board. Thank
I
you.
want to also thank he's not here, but Michael Larson for serving. I think he was a
Yeah.
great addition for us, and
Yep.
didn't take me long to pick who I thought would be a great representative in our district. He's fine, so.
They're going to continue to have good representation. That's great. Any other discussion? Alternative one is to approve.
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion to approve alternative one by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Loper. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, you are appointed to the board. Thank you, Ryan, for serving. Appreciate you. All right, with that, I don't have a clock up there. Do we have a clock in here somewhere?
It's 5:26.
On the computer.
So we've got some time. We're going to go ahead and move into our reports from our commissioners and administrative staff. So I'll start with our county manager.
Sure. Just a real quick update on the audit. As with most professional companies, there was a little bit of a staffing shortage there. We had put in for the extension back in December. We had gotten it. We got our preliminary audit last week. We should get our final next week.
They're hoping to have the presentation on the first meeting.
Yeah, but the final would be, so hopefully we'll have a final next week that can send out to you so you can review it and then have the presentation first meeting in April. It's about 5 week off from when they normally have the presentation to the board. They usually have it the second week in February. But from what we're seeing, everything was very positive.
Okay, very good. And I see the county engineer is giving an update on capital projects.
Yes. And so with that, I had, because we had such a long meeting last time, I had asked to bump that to this meeting. I didn't confirm with that with Eric. And Eric is at a training session right now.
So we'll do it at the next meeting?
What?
Going to do it at the next meeting or
So we'll do it at the next meeting.
Okay, not a problem. All right. Anything from Ms. Stephanie? For us? Any other staff? All right. Anything from the Board of Commissioners? Administrative reports or?
Everything's good over in District 1.
I want to bring up density in District 2. I know I've spoken with Tim about this and you about this. I'm really concerned about how many we've got coming on density-wise. I'm going to be asking for a 3-year moratorium on density in my district. And the reason why 3 years is I can always back off of that once we get some of the infrastructure in place. But the concerns are water pressure in certain areas. The concerns are, of course, traffic. We have a somewhat idea of how the infrastructure changes are going to help us. Well, we're not really going to know until it takes place, until we get these roundabouts in place, until Highway 30 and Hodgeville roundabout takes place. There's so much we have going on. Got the Parkway that we hope and we think is going to aid in moving traffic in and out of the county. But for now, we've got 340 we just approved. We've got more on Hodgeville that already is approved that are building. We've got more on Goshen that's been approved that's building. We've got, I think it's Buckingham up near the school We have a lot that's what we've approved that we have, the cars aren't even on the road yet. If we keep compiling this, we're gonna create some major problems and some safety problems in my district. We're just too dense and too small. So I would like to do something like that where we're not saying no, just no for now. Get us down the road a little bit, so to speak, no pun intended, to get some of the infrastructure changes in place to see traffic patterns and see how they're really gonna affect us and how they're gonna help us. And I'll give you a good example of that. Chatham County did a study on Highway 30 and 21. And by doing the roundabout to Poor, they thought they were gonna be okay. But when things actually took place and they saw the traffic patterns, now there's a huge pileup from 30 into 21 with people turning left going home. They didn't see that ahead of time. I don't want that to happen to us. So I'm hoping to get support on that. I'm hoping we can do something to where we at least can slow things down, put things out a little bit. Contractors can plan and make arrangements accordingly, but let's back off a little bit. 'Cause my district is tiny compared to the density that we have right now.
GDOT has responded there. They are in the process of making a permanent left turn lane, so I don't know if they didn't know it or they're reacting.
They're reacting to it. That was my
I think
point.
it's been
They're
in
doing
place
it.
for a minute, but they have started construction.
They have. Everybody's asking me, what are they doing there? I said, it's not my county, but this is what happened.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
it's,
they
and
didn't
it's,
really
and both are
anticipate
state
that.
highways, so neither county could do it anyway.
Exactly, it wouldn't be,
States-
but that was just an example of
Example.
how
Right.
traffic patterns might be much more impactful than what we realize when it comes about. And we could get the parkway in, and we could get the roundabouts done, and the third lane on Goshen, and we will be fine. That's great. Let's get a little bit ahead of it instead of being behind it all the time.
And your request was what now? A
3-year moratorium on density. So in other words, somebody wanted to go, and they could still rezone and plan and everything, but there wouldn't be anything over maybe 15 homes or 20. We could set that limit. That way somebody doesn't come in with another 300, 200. We're putting 400 more cars on the road, and we don't even have 3 or 4 developments built out yet.
And what he's saying, so don't misunderstand this, because he and I talked about this as well. We've got several, I'm gonna say half a dozen that have already been approved. We cannot restrict them.
Yeah, they're
If
also
they've already
gonna-
got their zoning and they've got their design going,
I don't wanna hold
they-
anybody.
we're not gonna get into a liable situation with development that's got investment. What we're looking at is, we've just redone our multifamily rezoning.
And one that's already we-approved, they can go ahead
They
and
can
do
go ahead
it.
and
They
go.
can build.
And they will.
And
And
this-
that's-
To get
Just
some of
in
this
District
infrastructure.
2?
Just
But
District
you
2
can,
unless
you can
somebody
expand it
else.
if you know of an issue in other districts, but that's one of the most dense districts. It might be District 1 we need to look at as well. But the idea is that if, because we talked about, do you restrict, like we did before, a moratorium on rezoning? I said, I wouldn't do that. People can go ahead and purchase land, get it rezoned for multifamily, knowing what they're gonna do. And he suggested 2, and I said, let's go to 3, because we can always back it down to 1 if they're ready.
But it'd be hard
But
to
you
add
can't
one.
expand it. If somebody,
So-
I'll use you, if your firm was involved in developing something, you got it approved to be rezoned and start building in 1 year, and we said, well, we're not ready, we got to extend it, I think we become liable, because you've invested a lot of property and
Looking
money.
forward to that
So
moratorium ending.
the idea is to,
I agree with.
those who've already got it approved, they're designing and planning, let them build, and let's build the infrastructure as fast as we can. And we're doing it through SPLOST and T-SPLOST through the bonds, so hopefully we can get a lot of this done. But you can see the parkway is gonna be done in 3 years, so if it's 2 years, it's about done, then we might release it in 2 years, because it would match up when they start building out. Does that make sense?
I agree with it 100%.
I agree to that point, but my issue is, as always is, I'm gonna throw a wrench. If I have a piece of property in District 2 that I've just purchased with the thought of developing and doing something, now I've gotta wait 3 years to capitalize. I don't know what the market's gonna be in 3 years, and I'm held captive by this moratorium.
Yeah. But I mean, you'd be able to plan for that if we let everybody that's already approved do what they're gonna do now. I'm not preventing anybody, like the one that we had 2 weeks ago. They can go ahead and move forward. Everybody up to
And
that
if somebody
point.
comes, say we approve this, and in a month, somebody inherits 100 acres and
Well,
says, it's
then
the perfect time to dispose of it, or, for me to capitalize on this. Oh, I can't for 3 years.
Well, somebody still may buy it with the anticipation of 3 years, because a lot of people buy
You're saying
things.
that it
I mean, I
could
see,
impact people.
but to that point, we've got many that were purchased and approved 2 years ago that haven't stuck a shovel in the dirt.
Sure.
So it is a process. So, and
I understand.
and my
I
goal
just-
would be to,
The devil's advocate here,
Yeah,
just
I
how,
understand.
And it's a
how
good
we can
point.
hurt- How we can hurt a citizen also.
exactly, but I don't wanna help one and hurt 300.
Or-
Thinking in that way, you know.
I think if anybody's hurt by something that we do as a board is detrimental.
It is, but sometimes you gotta pick your poison, and in this case,
You're not gonna stop development.
No.
If you shut it off in District Two, it's just gonna spread out through the county.
and I think it
mean,
needs to.
you can't put a wall around the county.
No, you can't, but I
No.
think it
That's
needs
what
to
we're
push
trying to do.
some
I understand.
into some of the less dense
What I
areas.
do.
I mean, look at my district, we just shrunk down my land mass in my area because we have so much density in that small area. Look at my district map compared to everybody else's, and you'll see the reason why we need to push some density in some other areas. Reggie's gained some, other people have gained, you gained some of mine, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
It's because everybody's moving in this one little postage stamp size, and now we're straining our roads, we can't get out of our driveways, we can't
It's
get
the
on.
same thing, though. Everybody wants to move up here and enjoy what
true.
we offer, but work in Johnson County. And then
Exactly.
fuss about the traffic.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah,
But I think-
and
well,
I
we
agree,
got a
but I
plan.
think I'm trying to see what our Commissioner Burdett's saying is that if you, and I get these reports from constituents who call me on Hodgesville Road, why are you approving more housing when we can't even get out in the traffic now? And so I guess part of it is we could be hurting our county as a whole, our constituents who are paying their property taxes and working and serving here by allowing new development to come before we're ready with infrastructure. We haven't finished our line looping. Hopefully we'll finish it in the next year, this thing we proved tonight, which is gonna help water quality and water pressure, okay? The booster station's gotta be built. That's gonna help water pressure. So we could actually end up approving things that we can't really support water and sewer wise or traffic wise, because we don't have our roundabouts built yet to handle the traffic on Hodgeville. And I think that's all we're saying is let's get out ahead of some of this. People can still plan to use that property they inherited. And it will probably be better for them because now they won't have the traffic issues and they won't have the water and sewer issues, and we won't be under the gun to,
Can we legally do this in just one district, Lee? Can we just pick an area and say, no more growth?
I'd have to look.
I'd be concerned there too, if I
But-
could.
and that's
you can do it
discussion
over on my
tonight.
side and can on his.
that's discussion tonight, is it, it's just,
We're not saying no, we're just saying, let us get ahead. Let us catch up some.
I understand, I'm just trying
I
to.
know you're being devil's advocate and looking
Further
ahead,
down the
but
road.
we're not gonna say, no, we're not even gonna tell them they can't rezone. We just want to say, hey, let's get ahead with this infrastructure. Let's get a couple of roundabouts in. Let's fix Scuffletown that people are using to get on 30, which is almost destroyed right now. It's a real mess. I mean, I live there. I drive, that's why we live in our districts. So we're in the middle of this stuff every day, and we see it and live it.
Well, Fort Wentworth's building two, and it doesn't magically clear up at the county line. That's
Oh,
what
I
people
know,
have
I
to
know,
understand.
but I don't care about Port Wentworth. I care about Effingham County.
I know.
That's what I care about.
well, probably the way to move forward is if the board's okay with at least getting the staff to work with the attorney to look at if can you even legally do it.
And we may have to restructure it to kind of get it to the where we want. You know, my experience on these things, it's usually more determined on something occurring before we release the moratorium, like certain infrastructure being involved, being in there.
Yeah, it could be certain
And I can,
roads
and
or
we,
something.
and clearly other, okay.
Well, you know, the infrastructure
well,
in
we're
places
gonna
that
have
is just a
problems.
district maybe, you know.
And clearly other jurisdictions have done this, so we can mimic what they've done, and
Yeah.
that's met legal
It may
muster.
not state that's what you gotta look at, something we can discuss to see if the board even wants to move forward. They may
That's right.
decide not to do it, but it may be tied, like I say, to the parkway being 2/3 completed or the certain infrastructure done in certain districts and area versus a time
Yeah,
schedule.
that'd be
That
fine
may be the
too,
way
just
it's-
to where we can get some relief. We need some relief right now.
So
We don't have shovels in the ground for a lot of this stuff that we're gonna do.
If you could get that together with our attorney and come up with something that we could present to the board to start digesting discussion.
Yep.
It may take 30 days or so to come up
If
with.
infrastructure comes online that where it can be supported, then maybe release it earlier.
Yeah.
I'd love that. I'd be fine with that. As long as we can move people in and out of the county safely, that's my whole goal. Schools needs to be thrown in the mix as well. What can we handle? What can't we handle? You know, we've only got that one little elementary school in Collicomi right now. How much more can it take? How much more landmass do we have there to expand? you know, before we're putting on wings and then we're
Okay.
done.
All right, why don't we make that an action point that the staff will get with the attorney, check the legality, how it might be done, see what other counties have done to get out ahead of infrastructure, and bring something back for discussion as soon as possible. It may not be the next meeting, it might be 30 days from now, but something we could start discussing.
Good as I-
Okay? Anything else?
No, sir, that was the big thing.
Commissioner Burdette, were you still interested in talking about the animal shelter?
Yes, sorry,
Shelter
I got
next door.
sidetracked with this. Animal shelter. I had an experience last week. Someone sent me a picture of a dog cabled to a gate, and I acted on it. And long story short, I got diverted to the city of Rincon, because it was in the city. I'm like, and I don't know a lot about that, I'll be honest with you. So I got diverted to the city. Okay, we'll call out an officer. So then 20 minutes later, I get a call from the officer. Okay, I'm out here. So what can you do? I can't do anything. They don't have any animal services in the city. So I'm like, well, why are we calling the city to go out there where we don't have any animal services in the city? So what I found out is, and I need some more information from everyone, you know, how does everything work? Do we fund the animal shelter and its officers with any municipality funding? You know, if we're providing service for Rincon and we've got.
Service delivery, Wesley could probably explain that.
Tell us that.
It's animal control is a countywide service.
Countywide service.
So
Do we get funds from for Rincon?
yes, through our tax
Rincon
dollars.
residents.
As part of our
We
general
do.
fund. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's great. So if we're doing that,
If
why are
Rincon
we
or
pushing
Springfield or
off?
Guyton were have their own animal service, then we could not tax for that service.
Right,
Okay.
so good.
So I think what they're doing right now is, the officer will usually detain the animal, but our animal control, as available, will come and pick the animal up and.
If they can, but they don't have trucks there.
Well, there may be criminal activity. You know, that's why you
Yeah, I would
want,
see
you want an
that,
officer.
yeah, if you had criminal
you know, if
activity
there-
as
if there's-
well, but
Yeah.
This had nothing to do, and
I know,
there is
yeah.
abundant and clear that, you know, that I feel like we're wasting a lot of time. I was worried about the dog, sent somebody by there to take a look at, make sure he was okay, and waited for the police officer. You know, is there another way we could do things to where, add some more officers? I would be all for that. I know we've got 3 slots, we only got 2 filled right now.
Well,
Right.
and
We got
just,
3 slots. Right, but we only have 2 working, correct, right now?
You have a supervisor who doesn't do the road, he's the supervisor, and then you have 2 road officers.
Yes, ma'am.
This is a question you're gonna have to ask the sheriff's department, because he's the one that governs the deputies that do the calls. And how it typically works is, if you're in the city that has a police department, they have to go out and ascertain what the situation is. If it's an emergency for after-hours calls, then they would request a mutual aid agreement with the county. That's how the sheriff's department works for all calls. They don't go into a city without being asked to go in. So they do their animal control the same way. That has nothing to do with the shelter at all. I mean, I have no control over how they answer their calls. They have worked it out with each city that there is a key and a truck available for them if they would like to bring the animals to the shelter. And they're welcome to do that. They can get a key and put them in the sheriff's department drop-off pen. They're welcome to do that. But that's something you'd have to address with Sheriff McDuffie.
I've talked with the sheriff about it already, and he told me that there was a slot for a 3rd officer.
And they were looking, and they've had a couple, and then things fell through and they didn't come on board.
So we
But
could have, right now, we don't have anybody working on the weekends. It was just the whole system.
well, they work on the weekends, but they don't go, and they only go out for an emergency, like if an
That's what I'm saying.
animal's hit by
There's
a
no-
car, or if it's a dangerous animal,
Right,
something
for
like
emergency
that.
situation,
It's
but if
on
I
call.
capture a cat on Saturday, you're not gonna pick it up till Sunday
Monday,
or Monday.
yeah.
So that's the point.
Right.
We don't have anybody, maybe we need to put more funding there or something. It's just some ideas. I saw a lot of inefficiencies in it.
You can keep that cat over the weekend.
I'm gonna send him to Forrest's house, but, you know, I mean, if animal could be in distress and nobody knows.
If it's in distress, they'll go out.
But how would we know that?
They send, the Rincon
Yeah,
officer
That's what
will
we
say,
did when I was with Rincon, is the officer would go out and assess the issue and see if we need to call animal control.
It just seems like we've got a 2-step process. We're sending an officer there to handle an animal, and they're not trained to do that. Why wouldn't we just send somebody straight out and let animal
Sure.
control handle animals? It is, Maybe
That's
I'm off
that
base
falls
with
under
it.
Jimmy there, doesn't it?
Well, no,
Well,
I think it's fine, in my opinion. You've got deputies in the area, or if it's in the county, you got police officers in the area. They know their constituents, they know their communities. Let them go look at the situation, because probably 50% of the time, it may be nothing to it.
95% of the time, they resolve themselves
And
quickly.
We've called somebody on call on
Maybe that's why
weekend.
they do it the way they do it.
Yeah.
That's just, I had that
It'd
experience.
be very
and-
expensive, I think, to have somebody there waiting for a call when it could be assessed by a local officer who's already on duty.
And,
Well,
and
there's enough calls right now on the weekend that they, you know, when I was talking with one of the officers.
I venture to say a lot of the calls are probably non-issue, like just a neighbor upset with another neighbor because the dog was in his yard, so he, you know, it turns into more and it's really nothing, you know.
But I can say the issue with the city further complicates it, because we have a mutual aid agreement with Rankin, not an automatic aid. And so mutual aid requires a request. And so that's why the local officer has to go there first and then put the request in for the sheriff under the mutual aid agreement.
Right.
It further complicates it a little bit, but that's kind of jurisdictional control issue where that may not necessarily happen in the unincorporated area, since the humane department is the sheriff is the law enforcement officer in charge of that area. So I just wanted to throw that in there. That could be the reason why you had that two-step process.
That would make sense.
And Lorna, before you take your seat, please state your name for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lorna Shelton, Director of the Effingham Animal Shelter.
This was nothing against the shelter itself.
Oh, I understand. It was just clearing up some, yeah.
Worried me that we have to go through so many processes to take care of an animal and/or a person. You know, it looked inefficient to me. You know, we're going through two things, and it may be because of the agreement we have with the
Right.
municipalities, and we've got to follow that procedure and protocol each time.
And like Mr. Kiefer said, a lot of times they work themselves out and people get hot and they react at the moment and stuff is resolved, and then you're paying overtime to somebody to come, you know, however far they live from this area to take care of something that resolved itself. If you're patient, a lot of times they just take care of themselves. So,
And that's what the officer can assess.
yes.
So I think it's by design that whether it's unincorporated or incorporated, an officer goes out first, looks at it, and then calls in animal control.
Right.
And we give a countywide service at that point. Okay, anything
How
else?
would they know if it was an emergency and they needed to go then? What determines that level to where we bypass the city police and send an officer?
Well, you can't ever bypass the city police. Even if you have a crime, you gotta
Said
send,
if you have an emergency, you can go
the
out.
officer has to assess that.
Oh, so even then with an emergency, you can't,
Right.
so by that time, somebody's got their arm chewed off, it's too late.
I think I want the police officer with the taser and the gun to come if my arm's being chewed,
Oh,
versus animal control with a little sling and a
And common
stick.
sense would dictate if it's that situation, everybody should seek cover, because it's just like any other disaster, you seek cover. Don't stand out there and, you know, go in your house,
sometimes I
you
have to
know?
search for common sense out there.
But, well,
Yeah.
so it still takes everybody response time too, whether they're in the city or the animal control officer, so.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Okay, anything else?
Yeah.
I just wanted to
Okay.
bring
Mr.
that up,
Deutsch?
if there's any-
Have we started the budget meetings, or that starts in March,
That starts next week.
next week?
So
Okay.
Have we approved a budget calendar yet?
We do, we have one together, I can send one to you.
yeah, and that's a step I forgot. I can send it to y'all with the and probably we'll approve it 1 week into the budget meetings,
Yeah,
if that's all right.
put that on the next agenda. We can at least, even if cup meeting's already happened, so we're aware of the agenda, who's meeting when and where.
Will do.
That'd be good. Okay.
And are we going to approve the RFP on the FDR roads at our next meeting?
Yes.
We can keep that rolling forward?
Yes. As of my conversation with Eric on Thursday, that will be on the next meeting.
Okay, all right, that's all I have.
Okay.
I have a question for Tim.
Yes, sir.
Tim, how about the sign coming into Effingham County? We've been discussing that. Is anybody following up on it?
Yeah, Lara's actually working on it with it. We have to have it now architecturally designed to meet GDOT standards, and so we're going to have to RFP that. GDOT's you can make it look like solid block, but it has to be,
Breakaway.
Where it won't tear your
styrofoam,
car up.
breakaway, and so on and so forth. But we're gonna try and do that design along with, we've got to do a front sign for this building as well as the flagpoles for this building, so we're gonna do that all in one contract.
Just build it up high, so if a car runs off the road, they'll run into a pile of dirt instead of the sign.
That's right.
That way they won't tear our sign up.
Yeah, that's my preference.
We're talking about putting that.
Right, and we can talk to GDOT about it. We don't even need to use the property owner per se, because we probably want it, the 21 right-of-way, we looked at, it's really wide. So we probably don't want to put it in the property owners, because it'd be too deep off the road. So we put it somewhere around the corner of Old Augusta Road and 21. Maybe at that corner.
We can use the property around there, I mean,
Yeah.
we don't have to, we might just put it on the right of way.
Right.
If we decide to put it there, I've got permission to
We
put
can
it
work
there,
with-
yeah.
It's just that the property may be so far off the right of way, they wouldn't notice it as good. It wasn't such a wide right of way.
Yeah, and we looked
could-
at that to
we'd have
see
deal
how
with the
far
breakaway.
off it would be, and I mean, you can kind of see it. It's where the
Wood line is?
Jasper Village old sign was.
Okay.
And that's a pretty good distance off of the road. That's right, pretty close to the right-of-way line right there.
You can go
Uh,
either side of Old Augusta Road, because they own
Yeah.
the land on both sides.
Yeah. And so that's what I was thinking, is probably right on that corner, you're sitting at the traffic light, kind of
Looking right at it,
diagonally right in
yes.
front of you. There is some telecommunication infrastructure there that we saw, but we think we can work around it. So, but hopefully we'll get that at the next meeting or the meeting after, just for the design.
All right, thank you, sir. Kiefer?
I'm okay. We're in good shape.
Okay, sounds good.
Yes.
We've got 10 minutes. Does anybody else from any staff have anything? I've got a couple items. I don't know if I can cover them in 10 minutes. It might be better to take a break and address mine after planning board if you want to, because we're gonna need probably a bathroom break before we get to maybe an hour with the planning board session.
That's fine.
But I do, okay, I'm gonna give you an update on the hospital. We've talked about the bond. I've got a spreadsheet. I wanna go with that. And I wanna talk about Blue Jay and McCall, that intersection. I think it's wonderful, but there's a lot of accidents there. And I want us to have some discussion about speed limits and some possibilities that might improve that, make it a little safer. But we might need some traffic studies, but I just wanna start some conversation about that. But I think I'll wait, because I don't think I can cover mine in 6 or 7 minutes. So why don't we take a quick break? For those who are here for item number 3 under Planning Board, this is JGH Commercial LLC. They've asked us to table that, so just let you know, if you're here for that item tonight, you don't need to hang around, because there's gonna be a motion to table that to the next meeting.
Number 3.
Number 3, there will be at that time, but I thought I'd save you.
It's number 3 and 4, and I'm looking at an email from the applicant's engineer stating that they are acceptable to postponing this item to the 5th of April.
5th of April. So if you're here tonight for that item, just want to save you having to sit there. So with that, we'll take a little break, use the restroom if you want to, and come back, and we'll start a planning board on time, and then I'll cover my items at the end.
The microphone to work.
running for that position.
Make a motion to go back in regular session.
Well, we don't need to do that, but we need the attention of our constituents out there.
Is the mic's back
All right. We're going back into regular session. Thank you. We're going to move to our planning board, and we'll come back to our executive session.
Let me get going.
Administrative reports. So we are in our planning board session at 6:07. And the first item on the planning board is a public hearing in which the planning board recommends approving an application by Eric Henry to rezone 2.32 acres located at 2819 and 2823 Sand Hill Road from AR1 to AR2 to allow for a combination of parcels, map number 301C, parcel number 2 and 3 in the first district. We'll open a public hearing and we'll hear from Ms. Teresa first.
There you go.
All right, we're getting there. Yes, Eric Henry is requesting a rezone of this property. These are lots in a subdivision on Sand Hill Road, and they're currently zoned AR1. He wishes to combine them, and because they're currently zoned AR1, even though they're non-conforming, in order to bring it all into conformity, we need to rezone it to AR2 because they're still not going to be 5 acres by the time they're combined. So this planning board recommends approval, staff recommends approval.
Okay, anyone tonight speaking for this rezoning from AR1 to AR2? Anyone speaking in opposition or would like to speak in opposition to this rezoning? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and I'll see if there's any discussion or a motion from the board.
Make a motion, we approve the rezoning request.
Second.
Alternate 1.
Motion by Mr. Floyd. Second, Mr. Kiefer, to approve the rezoning request. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. We have the second reading now. Consideration to approve the second reading of this application by Eric Henry to rezone 2.32 acres located at 2819 and 2823 Sand Hill Road from AR1 to AR2 to allow for a combination of parcels, map number 301C, parcel number 2 and 3 in the first district. Motion to approve the second reading.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second Mr. Burdette to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. We've tabled item 3 and 4 to, well, I'll entertain a motion, first of all, to table item 3 and 4 of the public hearings till April 5th, 2022.
Make a motion to table item 3
And 4.
and 4 to April 5th.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Floyd to table item 3 and 4 to April 5th. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Bill number 5 on the planning board public hearings. Planning board recommends approving an application by Rachel and James McDowell to rezone 4.95 acres located at 3714 Noel C. Conway Road from AR1 and B2 to AR2 to allow for the combination of parcels. This is map number 436, parcels 67 and 68 in the second district.
I'll show you on the rezoning, or the zoning layer here, that dark blue is the B2 zoning. So this parcel was rezoned to B2 in 1986 for an automotive paint and body shop. Well, the current owners of this parcel and the small one next to it want to just combine the parcels, and in order to do that, we have to rezone one of them to something so that they're, the same zoning. And the total acreage is 4.95, so AR2 is the appropriate zoning, and staff and planning board recommend approval of this.
Okay. Anyone speaking in opposition, in favor of this rezoning? Anyone speaking?
The applicant has been unable to connect via Zoom. She's been emailing me, but
Okay, we'll see if there's any opposition. If there is, then we may have to do something else. Is there any opposition speaking tonight against this rezoning?
I don't see anybody be against it.
You can email her that no one is speaking in opposition to it, okay? With that, we'll close the public hearing, see if there's any questions, discussion from the board or a motion.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Floyd to approve alternative one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 6 is the second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Rachel and James McDowell to rezone 4.95 acres located at 3714 Noel C. Conway Road from AR1 and B2 to AR2 to allow for the combination of parcels, map number 436, parcel number 67 and 68 in the second district. Motion to approve the second reading.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Burdette, second, Mr. Loper, to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 7 under public hearings is the Planning Board recommends approving an application by Daniel Henry to rezone 5.1 acres located at 4302 Old Dixie Highway from AR1 to AR2 to allow for a 3-lot subdivision. This is map number 313, parcel number 12 in the 3rd district. Open a public hearing, and we'll hear from Ms. Teresa first.
Mr. Henry owns this 5-acre lot on Old Dixie Highway. It's currently zoned AR1. He wishes to split it into split out 2 additional parcels for family members, and because that would bring it below 5 acres, the entire parcel has to be rezoned to AR2.
Okay. Anyone in speaking in favor of this rezoning from AR1 to AR2 that would like to speak tonight? Anyone here tonight speaking in opposition of this AR1 to AR2 that would like to speak tonight? Seeing no one coming forward, we'll close the public hearing and see if there's any questions, discussion, or motion from the board.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff and planning board recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Loper, to approve staff and planning board recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. We'll have the second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Daniel Henry to rezone 5.1 acres located at 4302 Old Dixie Highway from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the 3-lot subdivision, map number 313, parcel number 12 in the 3rd district.
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Loper, to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 9, the Planning Board recommends approving an application by Franklin and Gail Smith to rezone 5 acres located at 1900 Old Dixie Highway from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the creation of a home site. This is map number 364, parcel number 56A in the 3rd district. Open the public hearing and listen to Ms. Teresa first.
This is very similar. This is a 5-acre parcel currently zoned AR1. The applicant wishes to subdivide it into 2 parcels, and therefore it must be rezoned to AR2.
Okay. Anyone tonight speaking in favor of this rezoning from AR1 to AR2 that would like to speak? Anyone speaking in opposition to this rezoning request of AR1 to AR2 that would like to speak? Seeing no one coming forward, we'll close the public hearing and see if there's any comments, discussion, or questions or motion from the board.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff and planning board recommendations.
Second.
Motion to approve by Mr. Deloach, staff and planning board recommendations. Second, Mr. Loper. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously, and we'll move to the second reading. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Franklin and Gail Smith. Request to rezone 5 acres located at 1900 Old Dixie Highway from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the creation of a home site, map number 364, parcel number 56A in the 3rd district.
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Loper to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 11 under public hearing, the Planning Board recommends approving an application by Shell Polk for a variance located on Courthouse Road from section 7.1.11 cul-de-sac to section 7.3.1 blocks regarding maximum block length. Zone AR2, this is map number 370, parcel 16B in the 4th district.
So this 19 acres was rezoned late last year to AR2 for a residential subdivision. And Mr. Polk has provided us with a sketch plan which shows the cul-de-sac being about 1,100 feet long. And his justification for that is that there's really, he cannot stub out to either side, because as you see there, that's 800 feet, that red line. Were he to stub out to either side, he'd be running into a subdivision to the north and then to residential properties on the south. So he has no opportunity to create connectivity with adjacent parcels that are undeveloped. So in that regard, staff are supportive of his request for a variance, because he really has, this is a true hardship. In addition, in the rear of the parcel, there's extensive wetlands, so there's really no creative road crafting he can do here. He's losing the rear portion of the development for residential purposes as it is. That darker green is the wetlands layer. So we are supporting this application for a variance from the road length requirement.
Okay. And so we are in a public hearing. Is anyone speaking in favor of this variance that would like to speak tonight? You don't have to. Unless there's opposition, then you might want to speak. Is anyone tonight speaking in opposition to this variance request? Seeing no one coming forward, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve planning board and staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second Mr. Deloach to approve planning board and staff recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. We'll move to the second reading. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Shell Polk for a variance located on Courthouse Road from section 7.1.11 cul-de-sac and section 7.3.1 blocks regarding maximum block length. It's zoned AR2, map number 370, parcel number 16B in the 4th district. Motion to approve second reading.
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second Mr. Deloach to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Move to the sketch plan. The planning board recommends approving an application by Shell Polk for a sketch plan for Primrose Place located on Courthouse Road. This is zone AR2 consisting of 18 lots, map number 370, parcel number 16B in the 4th district.
So this project will be served by individual septic systems and by a private water company, Water Utility Management, which serves the adjacent subdivision. The health department is going to have the final word on the number of lots. There's been some question whether they really can get 18, but we decided to proceed with the sketch plan approval because Mr. Polk is kind of caught in a loop. If we don't approve it, then the health department has nothing to approve. So we're suggesting that we go ahead and approve it for up to 18 lots. And that way, once the final soil report, soil analysis is complete, like all of the soil work has been done, it's just a matter of the health department needed us to approve it before they could do their final approval. So it's
define the lots, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a number of lots issue, but as we just discussed, there's really nothing. It's not like he can do a whole lot more with that land, given that the rear portion is in wetlands.
Any questions or discussion from anyone on the board? Having none, do I have a motion to approve the sketch plan as presented?
Make a motion to approve the sketch plan with staff and planning board recommendations.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second Mr. Loach to approve the sketch plan with staff and planning board recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Move to item number 14 in our public hearings. The planning board recommends approving an application by Lamar Allen to rezone 0.49 acres located on Courthouse Road to allow for the combination of adjacent parcels of AR2 to AR1. This is map number 390A, parcel number 5A in the 4th district.
So this little sliver here along Courthouse Road might be familiar. Last year, you approved the Clyde Road subdivision, which consisted of a lot that had this little sliver along Courthouse Road. Well, Mr. Polk always intended to work through a deal with the Allens to do a land swap or some sort of conversion. And at this point, they wish to proceed with separating this parcel and so that it could be combined with the greater Allen acreage there, but of course it's been rezoned to AR2, so in order to be combined with the larger parcel, it has to be downzone back to AR1. So this is really just a housekeeping. We knew this was going to happen, it's just happening now.
Very good, thank you. Anyone tonight speaking in favor of this rezoning from AR2 to AR1 that would like to speak? Anyone speaking in opposition from this request from AR2 to AR1 that would like to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the planning board and staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Deloach to approve planning board and staff recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Second reading, consideration to approve a second reading of an application by Lamar Allen, request to rezone .49 acres located on Courthouse Road to allow for the combination of adjacent parcels from AR2 to AR1, map number 390A, parcel number 5A in the 4th District. Motion.
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second Mr. Deloach to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Next item for public hearing is number 16. The planning board recommends approving an application by Wesley R. Newrath for a variance located on Neely Road from section 6.2.12.1 to waive the restriction that a private unpaved road may serve no more than 3 lots. Zoned AR1, proposed zoning AR2, map number 461, parcel number 27 in the 5th District.
So this is the first of 2 applications for the same parcel. The second is the rezoning, assuming the variance would be approved. This variance is for the private road restriction that we have. This lot, this easement, you can see it along the right-hand side of the lot. There's an easement serving at least 3 lots currently. Mr. Newrath has asked, he wishes to subdivide this parcel, and then that would add an additional 4th or more lot to this easement. And we're actually supporting this application because he really doesn't have any other option. If he were to add, we talked to him about adding a 60-foot easement on the other side of his parcel, but that would restrict his development potential. And given that there are some wetlands on the property, he's already a bit restricted. So we're supporting this as, again, it seems like it really is a hardship.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing or continue in it, see if anyone is speaking in favor of this variance request that would like to speak. I need to pull it up on my screen. Okay. Anyone tonight speaking in opposition to this variance request that would like to speak? Seeing no one coming forward, we'll close the public hearing and see if there's any questions, discussion, or motion from the board.
Make a motion to approve the variance as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, my pen's going down. Second by Mr. Deloach to approve the variance as presented with whatever staff and planning board recommendations are included therein. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Wesley R. Newrath for a variance located at Neely Road from section 6.2.12.1 to waive the restrictions that a private unpaved road may serve no more than 3 lots. This is zoned AR1, proposed zoning AR2, map number 461, parcel number 27 in the 5th District. Motion?
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Deloach to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, second reading passes unanimously. Item number 18, under public hearings, the planning board recommends approving an application by Wesley R. Newrath to rezone 5.5 acres located on Neely Road to allow for the creation of a home site from AR1 to AR2, map number 461, parcel number 27 in the 5th District. Open the public hearing.
This 5.5 acre parcel is AR1, and in order to subdivide it, Mr. Newrath has to rezone to AR2.
Okay. Anyone speaking in favor of this AR zoning from 1 to 2 that would like to speak? Anyone speaking in opposition to this AR zoning from 1 to 2 that would like to speak? Seeing no one coming forward, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion from the board.
Make a motion to approve with planning board recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Deloach with planning board recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. We have the second reading. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Wesley R. Nerath to rezone 5.5 acres located on Neely Road to allow for the creation of a home site from AR1 to AR2, map number 461, parcel number 27 in the first district. Motion?
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Loper to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously, and that concludes our public hearings tonight. So we can move back to our reports from the commissioners, and then we'll finish those few items there, and hopefully get home a little early tonight. I think everyone had, the board had shared their questions or discussions. I want to share a follow-up conversation that I had with the hospital today, and our county manager passed out a spreadsheet to you that I want to go over with you real quick, if you have this document. If you could put it on the screen, Tim, that might be
yeah, I'm
helpful.
doing it
They
now.
could kind of, you can wave the arrow around the numbers. I'm trying to make this really a complicated thing very simple for us to review. And in background, the hospital has sought refinancing through HUD Ginnie Mae, refinancing of a debt that's around $23,825,000. That's their current debt they want to refinance. I don't know if you can see that 23 million on your, he's got the cursor over it, that's the amount they want to refinance. In refinancing that, they wanted to also pay off a short-term bridge loan of 3.5 million, and he's got the cursor on that 3.5 million. So you add those two together, you're gonna get somewhere around, what, $27 million? And then to refinance this, there's about $2.5 million in financing fees. And that was my first antenna that went up. That's a lot of financing fees compared to what we paid for a $40 million bond or whatever we did, you know. So there was just concern there that it may not be the best option. While we all appreciate our hospital do a phenomenal job, and I think our CEO is phenomenal in how she has handled us through COVID and all the expansion and growth. If you looked at their star ratings, it's phenomenal. They're actually rated a little higher than even some of the hospitals in Savannah. So they're doing an excellent job, and we know we want to keep them viable. They are great to the quality of life for our community. I think when people look at industry, they're looking at employment, schools, they're looking at hospital, recreation, all these things. And so I think there's a real value here. So I think we all expressed to Ms. Fran, the CEO, and Lamisha and Al that we have their backs and we appreciate what they're doing. But the concern I had as the chairman is that I wasn't sure the financing that they were choosing was the best route. So there's two questions we want to answer, and I'm only going to ask you to look at one of them tonight and give us some direction on. And I'm going to meet with Fran again tomorrow. I met with her today, and Al and Lamisha, to discuss what I was going to share with you, because I wanted them to hear it first before I shared it with the board, what I'm recommending. And then tomorrow I'll review it with them again, because they'll have a chance to digest it. But right now you have two options that they're proposing, that we sign off on a new IGA that would allow them to finance, if you could highlight it for them, Tim, up there, the $29 million. That's the cost of the 23 plus the 3.5 plus the financing fees. So the debt would go from 23 to $29.8 million. That's what they want to do. If you look at the current debt they have right now with HUD, okay, you'll see at the very top there on your sheet, they're paying $2.456 million annually in debt service. That's what they're paying. Under the new program, it would be 1.858. Go down below that number right there. That's the new debt service. And this is coming straight for their immunization schedules. So at first look, it looks like they're really lowering their debt payment. But right now, they're getting a credit of $600,000, a little more actually, in interest credit for this loan. That brings the interest rate down. Tim and I have looked at it. We don't see anything that says that's going away. The bond agents that night with us and subsequent meetings insist that it's not gonna be there. We cannot find any support for that whatsoever. And Tim might can explain that a little more, but certainly for the next 7 or 8 years, it is not going away. The sequester rate of 5.75 is fixed, and it will allow that credit to bring it down to that 3.62. You want to expand on that just briefly?
Sure. So essentially, the way these Build America bonds work, which is what the original 2010 bond was, it was taxable. It came out at effectively a 5.75% interest rate. But then the federal government, if you were in what was called a recovery area, which we are, then would provide a rebate of those interests to between 35 and 45%. Based on their financial statements, that rebate has equated to $603,000. It used to be slightly more, but if you recall, the federal government had a budget act several years ago which created these automatic spending cuts called the sequester, and these rebates became a victim of the sequester by a certain percentage point every year, and just like your Medicare payments, deductibles would become subject to the sequester every year, and so it changed on a yearly basis. It generally went from 5.5% reduction on what you were getting to maybe a 6%. Under the CARES Act, they've locked it in until the end of that budget act, which is 2030, at a 5.7% sequester, which equates to the $603,000 a year. So it actually provides a little bit more security as to what they're going to be getting back every year.
Thank you. So we're confident that for the next 8 years, this rebate's going to continue.
Right.
Okay. I guess there's some question after 8 years, but for 8 years it's going to continue. So when you put that rebate in there, you see that the actual debt service, net debt service, is slightly higher under the proposed refinancing. Part of the reason why they're moving this way, the bond agents had convinced them that was going away. It is not going. It may be going away after 7 years, but not for 7 years. So they have a very strong position. In 7 years, this note's only got 8 years left on it, okay? So when you look at the debt service, and it may not go away at all, remember that, and we always can refinance this if we find lower rates later. But certainly for right now, if they were to refinance this, they're gonna actually pay $5,000 more annually than they're paying right now. And we were trying to point that out to them today. So go down below that line where I said annual and total cash flows estimated for each option. So the first option that I'm recommending to this board is that we ask the hospital to stay with the current debt financing, and this is how it would look. I'm gonna go over that with you, versus the proposed refinancing. What would the cash flow look like? So I'm proposing that we can save about $18 million for our county, that we can continue to reinvest in our hospital if we want to, or whatever the needs are, if we go with my option number one, which would be less pay off, because what's happened with the capital investment they did with the 2010, and they had this infrastructure, and they've gotten doctors in there and facilities, but with the COVID, they didn't have the operating revenues for the payback. They had an investment like you do in stock, and they expected a return on that investment, but it's been stymied for the last 2 years, and it's really hurt their cash flow and put them in a very difficult situation. They've used what they have called a bridge loan to bridge that gap, but it's used up, $3.5 million. I learned today that they've got a 1.9, is it Medicare, that gave them some COVID relief funding that they've got to pay back. It's at 9% interest. So these are things that they've used to get them through this tough time. So they came and realizing it may take a year or two to build the operations back up. Where do you get the cash flow? Well, the logical surmise was, let's refinance and get that $3.5 million paid off in the refinance. Then we can use it to pay back the COVID release 1.9, and it still frees up another 1.6 to meet our operation as we're growing and expanding back, okay? But I'm suggesting that the better deal is for the county to come and partner with them. Let's pay off the $3.5 million. Keep the current debt, and that keeps their cash flow above the 3.6 that we are guaranteeing them of $1.746 million a year. So see, we give them 3.6 through our millage, okay? And they can use that to pay the debt, and that's for indigent care. But what it does, it actually funds their debt service, and it gives them 1.7 above that for operation. As you can see, under the proposed refinancing, that does not change for them. They're gonna have 1.741 or 1.746, a little higher actually if you don't refinance the annual cash flow. But what happens in after 15 years, because the current debt is only for 15 years, they're wanting under this refinancing to expand it for 25 years. In 15 years, that debt goes away. And there's your big savings, $36 million, $3.6 million a year that we are committed to give. We can continue to give them that if we like. And they'll be better off, as I was telling a friend today, you'll have in the last 10 years, $17 million if the board continues to support you at that level or higher versus actually about $18 million. But if you do the refinancing, you got to continue to pay that debt. So you only have $17 million the last 10 years versus $36 million. You follow me? So what I tried to express to them today, plus they've got this reserve fund of $4,700 for debt service that they actually have in their funds with their hospital, but it's restricted. They can't use it until the debt service gets into the last few years of the debt service. So obviously, if it's paid off earlier, right, 10 years earlier, that money becomes freed up earlier. So they had another $4.7 million that could be freed up as early as 5 years from now. Because when you get into the last 10 years of the debt service funding, that money starts being released. So that can improve. As Tim and I were expressing to him today, if you took $500,000 a year from that 4.7 after 5 years, your cash flow goes up from 1.7 million to 2.3 million, 2.2 and a half, okay? So that's improved cash flow. So the bottom line is, if you look, the cash flow, if we partner with them and pay that off, and I'll tell you how we get that back in just a minute so it doesn't hurt the hospital. The cash flow for the hospital would be as much as $70 million in 25 years. It'll only be 51.754 if they refinance it. And with the growth of our digest, the growth of our community, Tim and I feel like without increasing the millage of 1.6, and Mark, it's 1.6 something, whatever it is, without increasing that millage, the digest will allow us to collect more than the 3.6. So we can start paying that money back to ourselves, and we can pay it back at an interest rate of whatever we're losing on the pool, 0.6 or 0.5, whatever that is. It's not very much. So because we're always going to have a fund balance. We've got a fund balance that's restricted now, you know, for operations and so forth. So it'd be like an investment of our fund balance. It won't cost us anything, won't cost the hospital anything. You know, originally we talked about we might could lower that millage back from 1.6, whatever it is, to 1.5, if the digest goes up. But if we keep it there for 5 or 6 years, we can get it paid back. So my position is that we can put the hospital in the same position as the refinancing can do, and I believe better. And we can do it faster. They want to close this loan by the end of April. We could do this in 2 weeks if we got IGA worked up and get them out of this financial crisis they're in right now. If we could get on the next agenda, we could approve it. And it doesn't hurt us. It doesn't hurt them at all. And so I told her I was going to recommend to the board, I wanted to hear from me first, that we deny the IGA for the refinancing of the Ginnie Mae loans. Because really, bottom line is, if you look at the bottom of this page, all they're gaining is 3.5 million in additional funding by getting that bridge loan paid off. They're paying $2,476,000 in financing fees to do that. In addition, they're paying $18,000 additional debt payments for 10 years, all to get $3.5 million.
And what's the extra that they would pay because of the extension of the loan?
$18,582,000. So you're paying that to get 3.5.
So what's the interest rate on the new loan?
3.75.
What's the interest rate if you add in the fees? Have we looked at that?
Oh, if you spread it out, I think it's around 4% or something if they added
Kicks it up
overtime.
another-
But see, I really believe, then the other question is we want to continue to look at, he's got a bond agent that's gonna look at that. We figure we'd fund that with the money above the 3.6, and maybe 10 or 15,000, to look at, talking to John Pennell and a bond agent who's particularly skilled at hospitals, that has experience with that. What could we do in a private placement tax exempt bond, and what would the fees be? So I'm not saying we don't continue to pursue that and look at that with the hospital, but if that didn't come through, I am convinced that it's better off to help them have the cash flow they're looking for, which, once again, if under the proposed, the most they're gonna get is 1.741 for 15 years, and then 1.741 for another 10 years. That's all they're gonna get, plus 3.5. I've got the financing document here, and that's all they're getting from that. And I believe we can match that.
Now, have you discussed this with the hospital?
I did today, and
Feedback.
I think the CEO gets it, and I think her second command gets it. I'm not convinced their finance guy gets it. So I've scheduled a meeting tomorrow morning at 7:30 with him. For whatever reason, I really don't know the reason. I won't share my frustration with that today. I said, Al, you're telling me if we give you the same cash flow that you're gonna get, and get it earlier, because we can close this probably in a week.
Because that's what they're after, cash flow, right?
Cash flow, yeah.
Because of the
And,
bridge loan.
and in 15 years, we can give you more cash flow. Say,
Right,
knows, you wouldn't want to do that? And he kept coming up with some things. I said, well, let's meet tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
So Fran's gonna join me, and Lamisha and Al again. But
I'm sure he's just being a skeptic at first, to.
Yeah. But for the life of me, I can't see what the concern is, because that credit's gonna be there for at least 7 years. And I believe in between now and then, we can find something better. The rates are gonna do all kind of things. But I believe we can find something better if we want to. If not, this is the worst-case scenario, okay? If we don't refinance, is my point. So, that's my recommendation, and if the board agrees with that, that the chairman's recommending, I'd like to ask our administrator to get with our attorney, work up an IGA that works something we could discuss at the next meeting, how we could do this, fund it, pay it back, and, put all the particulars of the things I've shared with you
I want to
today.
understand it a little better. We kind of went through it pretty
Yeah,
quick
that was
there.
sort of quick,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But-
yeah.
And I could spend some time with it and digest it.
The extra money, would the taxpayers be responsible for the extra money with the new loan? I mean, would we be on the hook for the additional loan in any way?
No, if the hospital goes under the current IGA, we would not be obligated to it.
So either way, if they do this or don't do this, we're not gonna be obligated.
We're obligated as long as they're, and that's our goal, is to keep them viable. We're obligated as long as they're open those doors, we'll give them 3.6, that's our obligation, not for the debt,
The millage.
not for the debt. We're obligated to 3.6 is what we're obligated to.
3.6.
So they're just looking for help, we're able to help. But they can't do that loan without us, so aren't we guaranteeing the new loan?
No, there's no new loan. I'm suggesting they keep the loan they've got.
That's what I'm saying,
Stay
but if
where
they
they're at.
went with the new loan,
You have to we're not guaranteeing it either, we're only guaranteeing 3.6.
I see,
But it doesn't,
but we have to agree with them. and
we
go-
are extending the taxpayer's obligation another 10 years.
See, through further conversations today, it came out that really, that 3.5, that's the stressor. So instead of going through the whole refinance, and it's gonna change some language, we're able to leave the current language the same in the current loan, and we can take care of that 3.5, and that's really what they want help with. That's gonna help them out. So I think it's better all the way around.
I do too, and what we could do to bridge the gap for having more time for you to consider it, because we can always get it back if you decided to not go with what I'm recommending. We could come up with a resolution to approve, they've got this burden right now of 1.9 with this, what's it called again? It's the.
It's some
COVID
sort of
relief
Medicare loan. I don't-
that they borrowed from somewhere. It's 9% interest. We could approve to pay that if you wanted to while we're putting together the full IGA. So let's just go and get them out of that burden, okay? and then make that part of the final IGA so that all they get is the 3.5 at this time. You know what I'm saying? That just gives them that immediate relief, because that's what they're under the gun for right now, is getting that paid off.
As long as Fran and Al are good, and I guess John Pennell, everybody's good, I mean, I'm good with it. I mean, I think it makes sense.
I don't know that Al's ever gonna be good with it. I'm just saying, I was a little frustrated that he didn't understand what we were offering. The same cash flow with no fees and more opportunity on the last 10 years. And you probably shared my frustration today as I was talking with Al. So I like to qualify, you say,
As long as Fran.
Al may
as long
never
as-
get it.
As long as Fran's good, I mean,
Yeah.
because it may be the point of, you know, it wasn't his idea, but
Right.
he can get over that. But I think the math makes sense.
So, are you okay with if I instruct our manager and our attorney to move forward with an IGA that put together something that would resemble what we've talked about tonight and how it might refinance that we could discuss at the next meeting? And we may need at that meeting vote a temporary relief to give you time to review it, discuss it, and so forth.
I guess my biggest question would be, if we do all this, how healthy will the hospital be from there forward? And is this gonna solve their issues, or they're gonna still be struggling? Because it looks like they're paying this debt. They've used the bridge loan to help pay some of this debt. Now the bridge loan's due. That's the frustration, that's the strain on their budget now. If we make that go away, can they still handle the 1.8, per year?
Well, it doesn't obligate us any more than we are right now.
No, it doesn't, but I mean, is
Yeah.
it gonna make, if we go through all this, are they gonna be healthy so where they can move forward?
Well, there's two things to that question.
I think
One,
that, I think they would be healthy had there not been COVID, you know.
I would think they'd have more money.
Well,
We've
Yeah,
ordered
they're-
them money,
they're-
they've
yeah, on
been
the-
busy, they've been,
Well, the thing,
Oh, no, there's a lot we did.
two of the biggest things is during COVID, their operating room was shut down and cancer treatments. And that's two big cash flow items for them.
For 3+ months.
and compensation went
Fran-
way up too.
And Fran, I mean, at the beginning of the meeting, she made it clear that, I mean, of course, without COVID, a lot of things would be different, but she said, we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
oh,
I mean,
really?
because
They were
cash
doing
flow
that
was,
well before COVID.
yeah, it's doing good.
Yeah, when I got the audits, I understood a lot more. There, if everybody understands current ratio, that's your current assets to current liabilities. If we went from better than 2 to 1 to a little less than 1 to 1 in 2 years. And it's strictly COVID related, I'm convinced. The elective surgeries went away, the cancer went away, and the cost. Remember, we helped supplement, and we're talking about getting that back as well through this thing, funding that we're gonna do. But nurses were going where they got the big bucks.
Yeah.
And so they had to match those numbers. So their compensation went up, I think it was
It's probably overall
10 or
higher still.
12%, just not from pay raises, but getting people to, I guess it was increases in raises. It's not increasing personnel, not in paying management, it was just additional medical cost. So the cost went up, revenues went down, it's put them in this pickle. But the bottom line is, we're obligated to this current already, okay? So we're not changing our obligation if we say stay with that.
Right.
Our obligation didn't change.
Well, I know they're looking for some type of resolution from us, so I mean, I would definitely be fine with getting, I guess, the sample IGA written up and distributed to the commissioners before the next meeting. And if everybody has more time to look over it, where we could take action next meeting, I would be fine with that.
All right, if that's agreeable, let's do that. And if anybody wants to join me, tomorrow morning at 7:30, Fran's got to go travel at 9, so I tell me as early as you want to. Because I'd like to get Al in the room with me and
I think the IGA with your spreadsheet would be all I would need to get my,
okay. Well, I will have another discussion with Al tomorrow morning. He's just inviting you if you want to be a part of that. You're welcome to come at 7:30. We're going to meet here at the Commission chambers. But I think it's a great resolve for them, and it provides them what they need. It gives them certainly everything that the refinancing does without the cost. So that's my discussion on the bond. So we'll move forward in that direction if you and Lee would get together, and
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll be available tomorrow. Mr. Lee, if you want to talk about that more, okay? The other item I had was Blue Jay and McCall. Talked to the sheriff today. A lot of accidents still at that exit. I don't thoroughly understand it because I love it. I go that every day, at least once or twice. I have not had to wait on traffic at all, but I can understand some of the issues as people pull up. The way the sheriff explained it, they pull up and a car's coming, if you can imagine, from Blue Jay from the Guyton side toward Rincon. And that car is turning this way. This car is waiting, and there's a car here that's waiting to turn in. And so they don't realize necessarily that they don't have the right of way. This car has the right of way. So they're looking over here, and they don't see the second car, even though it could be visible because the first car is hiding it, if that makes sense. You know, you don't know what's behind it. And by the time that car turns out and they've pulled out, they realize, oh my goodness, somebody's coming, or either they don't realize they don't have the right of way here. So what he was thinking is maybe, and I think we got to do some traffic study to see if that would be justified, but probably need to do a traffic study, lower the speed limit, additional signs that says slow down.
I think it's the
congestion here.
Fort Howard Road, Old Augusta intersection before the roundabout.
What's that now?
The Fort Howard Road, Old Augusta intersection before the roundabout was put in.
Yeah.
Was it's almost identical.
Yeah.
Who's gonna do this stuff? I mean, we're
It
talking
was
about spending
kind
money.
of poor
for this
sight,
The-
looking north.
Study,
Yeah, and we're already, Eric's already working on the study. He's working with GDOT, and it's basically this kind of bank indicator to determine the proper speed of a curve. It was actually done beforehand.
produced, I wouldn't spend a lot of money for that. It's
Right.
obvious.
I think speed's
Well-
a big factor.
I think it
Well-
gives us a reason why we're doing it.
Yeah, let me address that if I could. The issue is this, prior to being built, this went through all the proper, traffic engineering, modeling, and so on and so forth, on this. And got stamped by the engineer, before it had to us. So the county, did its due diligence on it. But now you're seeing the results of it, of essentially a lot of times engineers' modeling plans don't match, driver behavior. So as a liability issue, we're covered, essentially at this point because we've done our due diligence on it. If we were to reduce the speed, even though you can logically make the argument it would make it safer, without doing a study, that kind of liability protection goes away.
It's crazy, but I'll get it.
And so we are, so that's why we're doing that study. I did talk to the sheriff today. We are going to put that, he did say he will put out that kind of speed limit sign for folks right before they get, that flashes their speed limit right before they get to the turn. So, it warns them of their speed. And you can put advisory signs up, and they should be coming in shortly. And those are the little yellow diamond ones that go underneath a curve sign that say 45 miles an hour. It doesn't mean that that's the speed limit. It just means that's what we're advising you to. So we are doing those for 35, I think. And so that's why we're going through this process.
Yes.
I don't necessarily think the cars are speeding in the sense of truly speeding. I just think the legal limit is really too fast. I go through there slow.
I did
Yeah.
too.
It would probably, and we need a study to verify that, but it'd probably make it a lot safer if you came around that curve at 35. People have more time to digest what's happening. And who's coming in.
And one thing that speed limit flashing sign does, it'll give us stats to let us know what people are actually coming into that curve with, for the folks who actually ignore it. So it'll give us an idea if people are actually coming into that at 65 and then not slowing down, we'll know.
And one thing, Tim, that he recommended to me today was that, and I thought about it already, I don't think we can just open it because the road's higher and lower. Don't even know if it would help, but he felt like if we reopened that McCall section, even made it one lane going toward Springfield, it might take some traffic off that intersection that might make it a little easier. Because if you got somebody that pulls up to that intersection that's merging, somebody that pulls up that's going left, and somebody that's coming back in, that's three cars competing, and then a fourth car, it complicates the intersection. So if you took some of that traffic off, and that's one less lane you gotta worry about.
Yeah.
So I'd
I mean,
like
that
for
would, it would cost money, to do that. We'd have to design a merge, into doing that. So we'll have to, we'll have to analyze to figure, you know, how it's gonna work.
Particularly when we know it's probably gonna end up being a roundabout when the parkway's complete and it's 4 lanes through
That's what
there.
it looks like it needs to be now.
Yeah. So you hate to put too much money in that if we can do something to make the intersection safer without doing that. But probably need to look at that since the sheriff said he would like us to consider that lane being opened up, even if it's just a single lane, which I would recommend a single lane. Don't have them turning across it anymore. But a single lane that would get rid of some of that traffic on that intersection.
You mean eastbound on Blue Jay would,
If you're coming from Rincon on Blanford,
if you're coming from
Rincon on Blanford, where the house is, where Burns used to live?
Yeah.
That's closed now. Open that back up, so that takes one bit of traffic off of that intersection.
I was thinking the traffic coming eastbound from Blue Jay, having a lane where they just kind of stay and peel off onto,
And we talked about that.
Maybe increasing the size, so it's a bigger merge.
basically the reverse of what y'all talking about.
Yeah, but it might be a combination. Give them more lane to merge, time to merge, so people aren't looking at what's coming. That might be something in this study to see if that would help it be safer too. I mean, I know engineers did all their design and study and plan, but get them to look at that and estimate the cost for us would probably be wise.
So if you're coming from Blanford, from Rincon, you just turn around and come right into, McCall Road, right?
Yeah, take the old McCall Road,
Yeah.
reopen it, but you couldn't just reopen it because now it's lower than the main road. You'd have to,
You'd have to do some
It
work
would be
on
some
it.
Yeah,
fair
yeah.
amount of work.
but I don't know what that would cost, but I think it'd be worth looking at that. It just takes maybe 20% of the traffic off that intersection, and it might help. You know? And the study could tell us, will it take 25%?
Why can't we
20?
why can't we look at maybe moving forward with a roundabout now?
And we are,
See what the cost is.
we
see
kind
what-
of are, and I'll tell you how we kind of are. We have an identical intersection that was actually designed by a separate firm at the other end of this, where it connects Effingham Parkway to Blue Jay. I mean, when I say it's a mirror image of this intersection, it basically does the exact same thing. And so, rather than rebuild that, I've asked the Atlas, who designed Effingham Parkway, they are looking at a roundabout on Goshen. I said, you know, I want to start the discussion of converting that to a roundabout. And on an engineering basis, if it works, it will work. It should work on this as well. And so that's kind of how I'm going about it.
Gotcha.
Just want to get that before the board to start discussing and thinking about it and come up with some options maybe. That's all I have. Anything else from anyone else under reports? Do we have a need for executive session tonight? All righty. About executive session meetings, there were none held, so there's no minutes to approve. So I believe that concludes our business for the evening. Did I miss anything?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, got a motion by Mr. Deloach to adjourn. Second by who?
Reggie.
Mr. Loper. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, we stand in adjournment.
No, moratorium on density, just a high density stuff, not all
Oh,
construction.
mercy.
You're talking about apartments,
Just-
multifamily, this kind of
Big stuff is gonna be putting on dump a lot.